I'd like to ask the Minister for Policy Reform what the Government's current and planned policy response is to the issue of homelessness on the Isle of Man.
Minister to reply, Mr Thomas.
Thank you, Mr President, and to the honourable questioner for the question. Despite our targeted benefits system, excellent social housing and the work of so many volunteers and donors in our third sector, homelessness is still an issue for us here in the Isle of Man. I think we can all agree that we would like to see an end to homelessness, but it is a complex area that cannot be fixed by firing a single silver bullet. Currently, the Housing Division of Department of Infrastructure works closely with charities to ensure direct referrals for emergencies and has a number of supported tenancies in effect. Infrastructure Department also provides short-term accommodation for families with children, and there are a number of Department of Infrastructure properties for this purpose. As a result of the shared housing waiting lists and other housing reform and policy initiatives, and perhaps also taking account of the housing market in general, it is now much easier and much quicker for a housing applicant who is in need and who is prepared to be flexible about their location to be housed than previously. The Department of Infrastructure is also exploring a range of alternative tenure models with the intention of providing more housing choice according to need and affordability. Officers from Cabinet Office, Treasury, Infrastructure, Office of Fair Trading, Department of Health and Social Care, Department of Education, Sport and Culture are presently working with third sector and private organisations to establish what more can be done to remove these uncertainties around homelessness. This will help people who are homeless to stabilise their lives, as well as preventing others from becoming homeless. The report from this group is presently being finalised and will then be subject to consideration and approval by the Social Policy and Children's Subcommittee, which I chair, and then be transmitted to the Council of Ministers. And the Chief Minister gave an indication of the timetable for that in his linked answer to the Food Bank this morning of August to the Council of Ministers and October to Tynwald Court. Unfortunately, therefore, I cannot yet share details of the proposed policy changes, but I look forward to bringing them to this court, this honourable court, in the nearest future.
Thank you, Mr President. I'd like to thank the Minister for that very comprehensive and very encouraging answer, which shows that the Government is taking this issue seriously and recognises the complexities and the interconnectedness of many of these issues. Could I just ask the Minister to clarify, he raised the issue of supported tenancies or supported accommodation, and could he enlighten us as to how much of that type of accommodation is available and whether it's seen to be at an adequate level?
Mr Thomas.
Thank you, Mr President, and for that helpful comment and supplementary question, half of which I can provide the answer to now and half of which I'll arrange for the Department of Infrastructure to circulate exact numbers to answer the first part of the question. No, the issue in terms of some of the housing and multiple occupation that's made available to people is that they're inadequate. And this charity group, working with many, many parts of government, was initiated by a proposal from one of our excellent charitable organisations, Housing Matters, to actually think through how we use our benefits expenditure to put together better arrangements for supported living. And there are initiatives inside Home Affairs for particular groups, there are initiatives in health and social care for particular groups, and they're all being brought together by officers working with people who give up their own time inside the third sector. And that's the sort of initiative that I'll be coming back to this Honourable Court with further information. But in the short term, the Minister for Infrastructure, I'm sure, will be able to help me to circulate the exact numbers about the supported tenancies.
Supplementary, Ms Edge.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the Minister advise of the actual figures with regards to homelessness, and particularly in relation to what a number of people class as homeless, which is sofa surfing, and really how many people do we actually have sleeping on the streets of the Isle of Man? I don't believe I've seen any in and around the Douglas or Onken area, but the Minister may have them statistics. And also, we have a number of empty government properties that could be utilised in this area, and you know, as member responsible for housing within the Department of Infrastructure, I'd be keen to make use of any government property, not just the houses that are within our within the housing section, but any property to help anybody that is truly homeless.
Mr Thomas to reply.
Thank you, Mr President, again for that helpful question, which enables me to provide some more information to the best of my ability. The first point is that on census night, April 2016, officers of government, including the constabulary, were charged with finding whether there were any homeless people to record in the census, and they were unsuccessful, which must be good news for all of us. So in that sense, the census seems to indicate we don't have that traditional problem of homelessness, of meaning sleeping out on streets. However, as I've said in my initial statement, homelessness can take all sorts of forms. We do have statistics from various of the third sector organisations and from other sources inside government, and we've organised a big meeting to actually get to the bottom of confirming those statistics and using them to give us the best possible answer, and that's currently where we are in terms of finalising our report. It's not huge numbers, but it's a significant challenge which we've risen to. And the final point of the question was that the member responsible for housing has stated current infrastructure policy and willingness to help, and I know of examples, and I had the role that government houses and even housing authority houses outside government have been made available to the Manx Housing Trust, to GRI, on that sort of basis, and I would hope that would continue. But what we want is to put together a better arrangement using some sort of supported housing arrangement that's appropriate for people with particular needs, and that's what this promise report that's currently being finalised tackles, and comes up with some very specific policy responses in the light of the evidence that we have. I don't want you to think it's going to be a long report. This report is going to be short and response-based, and I hope it's very exciting because it will tackle a challenge that we have in a proper way.
Final supplementary, Mr Baker.
Thank you, Mr President. I'd like to thank again the Minister for a very encouraging set of answers which demonstrated a very joined-up, coherent approach to this issue, and for highlighting that the issue is far more complex than a stereotypical image of people sleeping on the streets. Can I ask, is the Minister aware of the survey that was carried out by Adult Community Nursing Services and GRI in 2015, which identified that 94% of the homeless that were interviewed reported mental health issues, and that's over double the equivalent level in the UK? And is that within the scope of the work that is being underway and is being contemplated?
Reply, sir.
Thank you, Mr President. Yes, I am aware of it, and officers in government are aware of it, and we're delighted that that information has been presented to government. It was actually presented to all Tynwald members, perhaps in the last House rather than this House, and it's a very important document. There are other similar ones that we've taken into account and are using to come up with government policy responses at the moment in the document. Mental health is an important contributor to these factors. GRI is an excellent organisation. Humblest apologies I couldn't attend the annual general meeting last week, but I have done that for a great number of years.